To the story now, sugarcane farmers are sour over government's sugar tax since it was introduced back in 2018. They say it has cost the country over 16,000 jobs and 205 billion in revenue. They say another unsweet factor is its failure to produce evidence that it succeeded in reducing obesity. The Canegrowers Association CEO Thomas Funke joins us now to unpack just this. Thomas, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Now, you've raised concerns particularly around the impact of the sugar tax on the economy versus what would be its benefits of reducing obesity in the country, where you're saying there really is no evidence to that effect. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. So we're not experts in health at all. We're experts in agriculture. And what we're seeing is that this sugar tax, when it was implemented in 2018, apologies, has had a massive impact on employment and the livelihoods of cane farmers, as well as their staff and other downstream operations that are linked to that. So the 16,000 jobs, that was a number that NEDLAC actually put together in their study on the HPL. And that's a shocking number. I mean, our numbers of the on-farm component alone were around 9,900. So a big component of those job losses happened on the farms.
But most certainly a big number nevertheless, if you're saying 9.5. Beyond this, if we had to quantify beyond the employment, what exactly is the cost to the economy?
Yeah, the cost to the sugarcane industry that I can talk about is that we suddenly were forced with exporting 250,000 tons in addition to our normal exports, which were local market sales that we lost. The world market is in sugar is a dump market. Many countries sort of supply their excess onto that market, so the price is generally below cost of production, and that is one of the issues that we face. So you don't really want to be on the export market in sugar. For every ton that you export, you lose 4,000 Rand in revenue in comparison to the local market. So for us, that was a massive blow. The 250,000, it translates into the 2 billion Rand. And that was revenue that suddenly the sugar industry couldn't make. And as a result, was plunged into this crisis. So for us, it's still an issue. We don't believe that the tax is actually doing anything. In fact, many of the beverages, as you see on the shelves now, have reformulated to such an extent that they are below the 4 gram per 100 ml threshold, which is tax exempt. And yet there are reports coming out that are showing that obesity levels are increasing.
Then of that obesity factor, what do we do? Because we know to a certain extent, or we've heard of the links between obesity and strokes. We've heard of obesity and diabetes and even heart conditions. So this then becomes a burden to the health system. So what do you make of those that say, nevertheless, any intervention, as negligible as it is, or as negligible as the results are, we must continue with such an intervention if we are to curb obesity?
Yeah, I guess that is one side of the argument. Again, I'll say that, we're not experts in health, we're experts in agriculture, and we're seeing what that impact of such a policy has on the livelihoods of people in KZN and in Mpumalanga. You must remember that in these rural areas, there is no other economic activity. Sugarcane has 44% of the agricultural GDP in these provinces. So it's a massive contributor to the provinces and also to the livelihoods of people in those areas. And if that gets done away with, or if it goes out of business, those farming units, people are without jobs and no real opportunity for anything else. So that is our concern. We're working hard with government as we speak on various alternatives, bioplastics, sustainable aviation fuels, ethanol, even at these oil prices, makes sense. So we're pushing hard, trying to come up with alternatives so that we can move away from a sugar-only industry, sugar and molasses, and into, another sector.
So I judge if you guys are working on alternatives, it means then that the current delay in a hike is not sufficient for you guys. You really want them to do away with the tax completely.
Yeah, that's correct. But, we'll take anything at this stage. We've been very vociferous around the impact of the tax and the fact that we don't believe it has done its job or it is actually working. But this delay in the increase definitely gives us a bit of a breather to continue our work in the alternative space. And we'll continue to push hard this year to get that done and to get the feasibility studies done and hopefully find the investors that are willing to invest with us into this new future.
All right. Mr. Funke, thank you very much for your time. We'll certainly await those feasibility studies and just comb through some of what you have found around alternatives. That was Thomas Funke, the South African Cane Growers Association's CEO.